Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
To suppress individual thought and run humanity into a ditch. For more contest rules, visit Infowars.com/.
Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It's Thursday, July 6, 2017. Here are top stories.
Tonight, the lie perpetuated by the mainstream media that 17 intelligence agencies agreed Russia had hacked our infrastructure is called into question as the original fake news reporters have had to retract their stories. Also, protesters at the G20 summit get out of control as riot police are called to the scene, while thousands march in the streets. Meanwhile, Emmanuel Macron goes on a record power trip, saying he will govern like a god, force vaccinations to the public. And then, Chris Galbitz infiltrated the Center for American Islamic Relations to high levels. What he discovered was shocking and revealing. He joins Infowars to discuss what he learned. All that and more, tonight on the Infowars Nightly News.
Globalist social engineers are not just targeting us with propaganda. They are manipulating our genetics. We are being targeted at every level by estrogen mimickers that lower our testosterone and other hormones and natural compounds that the body needs. The key is to be aware of this attack and to fight back against it. After consulting top doctors, nutritionists, pharmacists, and others, we have developed what I believe is the ultimate non-GMO organic super male vitality formula sourced from powerful organic herbs harvested around the planet and then concentrated for maximum potency. I've always believed in nutrition and herbs. Super Male Vitality was developed to activate your body's own natural processes instead of using synthetic chemicals. Super Male Vitality by Infowars Life is so powerful that I only take half the recommended dose. Visit InfowarsLife.com today to secure your Super Male Vitality and other powerful products from Infowars Life.
Check out these amazing deals at InfowarsStore.com. 25% off BioTrue Selenium, a powerful antioxidant and back in stock Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste. Now 33% off. And while you're there, check out the Total Oral Care Pack, which combines our organic mouthwash with the amazing Super Blue toothpaste. Now 37% off. All available right now at InfowarsStore.com.
Today, Donald Trump was in Poland, very friendly to his ideas, nationalistic, control of the border, control of their people there. But then, of course, CNN's Jim Acosta followed him, the White House correspondent from CNN. And one of the things that he said today, and we're going to talk about Donald Trump's speech, gave a great speech talking about, does the West have the will to survive? And he used Poland as a great example of a country that does have the will to survive. But I want to go first to CNN's Jim Acosta. Absolutely amazing how out of touch this guy is. He went on Thursday morning's edition of New Day, a CNN program, and he questioned the president's claim that it was, quote, 3 or 4 intelligence agencies that determined Russia was attempting to influence the 2016 election, not 17 agencies. Now, remember, this broke over the weekend. Actually, the retractions, I think, came out on Friday or Saturday. I covered this in detail on the Sunday show, July 2nd. If you want to find the article there, even the New York Times retraction on the 17 intelligence agencies is a lie. But it was a retraction. The New York Times and the Associated Press have both pulled out. But apparently, Jim Acosta is clueless. And as I tweeted out today, I said Acosta and CNN continue to push this 17 intelligence agencies lie. It started with Hillary's October debate and they parroted that just as the James Clapper, the director of national intelligence, did, but it's been debunked. It was denied by Clapper in testimony that he gave to Congress, and it was retracted last week by the New York Times, by the Associated Press. But he is apparently clueless. Acosta said, where does that number come from? Well, it comes from the New York Times and Associated Press. You're very selective, aren't you, Jim? We've had 3,500 stories, as WikiLeaks pointed out, as of May, talking about 17 intelligence agencies that show that there's collusion with the Russians and Trump. Not true at all. It was patently absurd when Hillary Clinton said it, but we had people in the intelligence agencies that chimed in on that. And as we pointed out over the weekend, the New York Times came back and said, no, it was only 4 intelligence agencies. No, actually, as the AP pointed out, it was only 3. That's where Trump got the 3 or 4. And both of those are actually not true as well. If you look at the analysis that WND did, if you go back and you look at the testimony of James Clapper, guess what? It was 0. 0. We had the FBI, the NSA, and the CIA meet with DNI, Director of National Intelligence, Clapper, and they were presented with a CrowdStrike report. And it wasn't these agencies that had investigated it. They were presented with a report. And Clapper said, well, none of them disagreed. It was a hand-picked panel. A hand-picked panel of sycophants who would rubber stamp a report that was given to them by the DNC's contractor, CrowdStrike. And remember, the FBI was never allowed to see these servers. It was CrowdStrike that told us that it was Russians. WikiLeaks, who got the information, the DNC information, said it wasn't a state actor at all. Nobody, no government did this, certainly not the Russians. But he went on, he said, he called Trump's 3 or 4 intelligence agencies claim a fake news. He says, if we go to the administration and we ask them this question, I'm not sure we're going to get an answer. And if we do, it'll be off camera. Well, you just got your answer, Jim. And maybe you should read the New York Times or the AP. I think you worship those sources. We don't here, but they have backed off on it. But even their back off claims are not actually true. Trump went on to say, and they're very proud of this, CNN thinks that they got him on this, that the election meddling could be Russia. But actually what he said was, I think it very well could be Russia, but I think it could very well have been other countries. But of course, as I just said, WikiLeaks, Julian Assange said it was not a state actor. And Trump went on to say, I think a lot of people interfere in elections. And of course, the United States Intelligence Agency is one of those groups. And they continued to say, I remember when I was sitting back listening about Iraq. Remember, that was unanimous, the intelligence assessment there. Weapons of mass destruction, how everybody was 100% certain that Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. Well, guess what? That led to one big mess. They were wrong, and it led to a mess. Well, actually, it led to a war. Today, however, let's take a look at what Trump said to Poland. And here's the gist of it. He said that the West faces an existential challenge to defend our civilization. This is our story on Infowars.com from Breitbart. He said the fundamental question of our time is whether the West has the will to survive. He said the Polish experience reminds us the defense of the West ultimately rests not only on means, but also on the will of its people to prevail. And Poland provides a great example of this. And in the speech, Donald Trump goes through the history of Poland. Of course, they've been trampled back and forth by Germany, by Russia for centuries. And in the 20th century, they were oppressed and occupied by the Nazis, and they were oppressed and occupied by the Stalinists, by the communists. And of course, when they had the uprising, this is a place where he gave his speech, was at a large memorial to the Warsaw Uprising. It was the largest resistance that any country mounted during World War II after having been occupied by the Nazis. And as they mounted that resistance to the Nazis, the Russians were approaching, and they backed off of the city, and they waited until the two sides basically decimated each other. Then they came in. Then they oppressed the Polish people. And so what he's talking about is the will to survive. And he said, your oppressors have tried to break you, but Poland could not be broken. Let's pick up his speech. We're going to leave this live. I've got a couple of comments I want to make as we run this through. But here's Donald Trump in Poland in front of the monument to the Warsaw Uprising.
The Polish martyr, Bishop Michael Kozel, said it well. More horrifying than a defeat of arms is a collapse of the human spirit.
Yes, the collapse of the human spirit.
Through 4 decades of communist rule, Poland and the other captive nations of Europe endured a brutal campaign to demolish freedom, your faith, your laws, your history, your identity, indeed the very essence of your culture and your humanity.
That's what the
Yet
globalists are
through
doing
it
now.
all, you never lost that spirit.
It's exactly what the globalists are trying to do to the West everywhere now. That's why Poland is such a great example
Your
of this.
oppressors tried to break you, but Poland could not be broken. 1 million Polish people did not ask for wealth. They did not ask for privilege. Instead, 1 million Poles sang 3 simple words: "We want God."
That was the uprising against the communist occupation, and that was centered around Pope John Paul.
In those words, the Polish people recalled the promise of a better future. They found new courage to face down their oppressors. And they found the words to declare that Poland would be Poland once again. You stood in solidarity against oppression, against a lawless secret police,
That we have here in
against
America
a
now.
cruel and wicked system that impoverished your cities and your souls. And you won. Poland prevailed. Poland will always prevail. This continent no longer confronts the specter of communism. But today we're in the West, and we have to say there are dire threats to our security and to our way of life. You see what's happening out there. They are threats. We will confront them. We will win. But they are threats. We are confronted by another oppressive ideology, one that seeks to export terrorism and extremism all around the globe. We are fighting hard against radical Islamic terrorism, and we will prevail.
Over and
We
over again,
cannot
people
accept
chanted
those
Donald
who
Trump.
reject our values and who use hatred to justify violence against the innocent. Finally, on both sides of the Atlantic, our citizens are confronted by yet another danger, one firmly within our control. This danger is invisible to some, but familiar to the Poles. The steady creep of government bureaucracy that drains the vitality and wealth of the people. The West became great, not because of paperwork and regulations, but because people were allowed to chase their dreams and pursue their destinies.
That's the enemy within, the deep state,
Adversaries,
the bureaucracy.
however, are doomed because we will never forget who we are. And if we don't forget who we are, we just can't be beaten. Our own fight for the West does not begin on the battlefield. It begins with our minds, our wills, and our souls. Just as Poland could not be broken, I declare today for the world to hear that the West will never, ever be broken. Our values will prevail. Our people will thrive. And our civilization will triumph.
It was a great speech. And now he's going to head to the G20. And he's going to see the other side. He's going to be confronted with people like Macron, the new French president, who today was saying, as this was happening, as Donald Trump was celebrating the idea that people demand to be free, that they had the will to be free in Poland, even after every kind of oppression, they came back, they had the will to survive, and they came back and preserved their identity, preserved their self-determination. We have Macron saying, I will govern like a Roman god. Absolutely amazing, the arrogance of this Rothschild bankster. This guy went to the Palace of Versailles. And remember, this was the place that Louis XIV, the Sun King, moved his palace to this elaborate palace that he built at Versailles. And the monarchy was there until they were overthrown in the French Revolution. Louis XIV called himself the Sun King. Today, he summoned 900 politicians, Macron did, from both houses of the French Parliament to a rare Congress that he held there at the Palace of Versailles. Very symbolic of that. And he threatened to overrule lawmakers with a referendum if they try to frustrate his reforms. The arrogance of this guy. The monarchy is truly back in spirit, if not in reality yet, but they're going to make that happen if they can, for all intents and purposes, this small global elite. He says, if you try to frustrate the reforms that I wish to impose on the legislature, such assemblies are usually reserved for times of national crisis, writes Breitbart. Reuters reports him as saying he desires to reign as a Jupiterian president. In other words, like Jupiter, like a Roman god, a remote, dignified figure, like the Roman god of gods, who weighs his rare pronouncements very carefully. They said the bizarre statement of intent comes just days after Macron scrapped the president's traditional Bastille Day. You see what he's talking about? He's taking even the French Revolution, which we don't celebrate here because it was based on socialism. It was a forerunner of communism, but nevertheless, it is viewed there as a movement of the popular people. And he's saying, no, I'm going to rule as a king. He's going to rule as the Goldman Sachs or a Rothschild banker that was put in place by the globalist elite. Palace officials claim that the 39-year-old's thoughts were too complex for journalists. Yes, you would not understand it, you stupid English types. You would not understand what he is thinking. And, of course, perhaps some of this is trying to recoup his masculinity, I don't know, or his, trying to look like he's a macho. He was criticized by Marine Le Pen, who said, regardless of the outcome of the election, France will be led by a woman, either by me or by Mrs. Merkel. In other words, he's also been called Merkel's French poodle. But as Donald Trump is headed to the G20, remember the last time that they met as a group, and we remember the fact that it was Macron who snubbed Donald Trump and then went on to try to arm wrestle him in a handshake. But what is happening in Hamburg, where they're going to have the G20? We have these leftist zombies actually owning what they are. The day before, actually yesterday on Wednesday, today we've had riots, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But yesterday, we had 1,000 actors dressing up like zombies, and you can see the pictures of them roaming the streets there. It was a performance piece. They had 1,000 actors in the city of Hamburg. They shuffled and clawed their way down the streets in eerie silence before a single demonstrator shed his zombie facade to reveal colorful clothes underneath. But they said, our campaign is a further symbol of the fact that many people do not want to put up with the destructive impact of capitalism any longer. What will save us in the end is not our account balance, but someone who will offer their holding hand. There you go. That's the Kumbaya Collective. Absolutely clueless about what's going on, absolutely contemptuous of freedom and blindly trusting the government. But after they got finished with their little bit of theater, today, the day before the conference starts, as Donald Trump is arriving, they had violent protests in Hamburg. Violent clashes broke out near the site of the G20 summit Thursday, reports NBC, as German riot police confronted thousands of protesters demonstrating amid the arrival of President Donald Trump. Dubbing their protest Welcome to Hell, upwards of 10,000 people belonging to an army of anti-Trump, anti-capitalist groups, many of them wearing masks, attacked the authorities, set things on fire, hurled rocks at officers and buildings, chanted slogans, touted angry banners as part of their effort to disrupt the global conference. German riot police, in turn, attempted to disperse the protesters with tear gas, smoke bombs, water cannons. At least 15 Hamburg police officers were injured after unruly crowds chucked stones and bottles at them. 3 officers are hospitalized. Even emergency personnel were attacked. These are the communist zombies. They don't know what the real threat is. They don't know who the real enemy is. And if we want to know who the real enemy is, we're going to pick this up when we come back. But it's the immigrants that they will not blame. Cultural enrichment in one of the cities, the German city with the most immigrants, also has the most crime. That's in Frankfurt. We'll be right back. We'll pick up on that, and we have more information about King Macron. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We've taken thousands of years of known research and put it together with our own 4 years of seeking and testing to find the very best systems that God gave us through Mother Nature to detoxify the body. That's why I'm introducing Z-Shield, Toxic Metal and Chemical Defense Support. It's made in the USA. It's filled with known compounds from nature that are absolutely associated with detoxifying the body, and it supports the Infowar. It is a classical 360 win. Our formula at InfoWarsLife.com is, quite frankly, simple. We go out and look at the recognized research, and we take it to the next level of quality, of purity, and of strength. Because this is what I personally use for myself and my family. We've gone through 5 or 6 different permutations in the last 4 years since we launched Infowars Life to actually come up with this. This is the formula that I personally have been taking for over a year, and now we believe we have come as close to perfection when it comes to a detoxifier as you can possibly get. If you're not mitigating the pesticides, the heavy metals, the chemicals, if you're not trying to purify your water, if you're not trying to take products like Z-Shield that are full of known concentrated compounds that'll purify our cells and our bodies, you're crazy. You owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, and you owe it to the future of this country and the world that patriots stay as healthy and as clean and as focused as you can be, because we need you, the remnant of America, to reignite those brush fires to the next level and to be healthy and as focused as you can be. Because if you're sick, if you're over there on the sidelines and not in the fight, you're basically giving in to the New World Order. Thanks to your support and your prayers, together, we're changing the world. Now it's time to change our bodies with Z-Shield at InfoWarsLife.com.
I want to tell you about some of the products at InfoWarsStore.com. We are under constant attack. You know it by now from the mainstream media. They're trying to attack us on every level. Now with the YouTube scandal, they're demonetizing our channels, which again takes a huge chunk out of our income, which is why we always appreciate and rely on you getting the products, because that's how we stay afloat. They can't get to us that way. They can't pressure you to not buy the products. They don't have that power. And that's why you're the key to this entire operation. We have Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste, bubblegum flavor, just arrived at InfoWarsStore.com. This is by listener request. Bubblegum flavored Super Blue toothpaste now available at InfoWarsStore.com in limited supply. Again, if you're not using fluoride-free toothpaste by now, you're absolutely insane. Harvard studies, it reduces IQ, it causes bone cancer. It's not great, let's just put it that way. And I've been using it for about, what, 15 years now? So you're going to buy it anyway, why not buy it from us? It's in limited supply, but it is available at InfoWarsStore.com with the new bubblegum flavor Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste, and it supports this network, which is under constant demonization and attack, because we don't take big fat checks from George Soros. We don't get put on extremist lists, even though they want us to. That's how they're taking away the YouTube money. That's why we need your support more than ever, because we're not funded by giant corporations who are now pulling the plug on YouTube as they move it into a TV thing, a Netflix model, to drown out independent voices. So support us by getting the products at InfoWarsStore.com.
So today, Donald Trump was in Poland. People who share our ideas of self-determination, people who have been oppressed, severely oppressed, and they don't want to see that happen again. Yet the rest of Europe is kind of in a trance. They're kind of suicidal, self-loathing, nihilistic, zombies, as we saw these people actually dressing up as zombies. And then we saw the violence come out yesterday. That's Hamburg, where Donald Trump is headed tomorrow for the G20. And as we look at what's happening to the rest of Europe, the places, there's the zombies marching down the street. As we look at what's happening to the rest of Europe, of course, it's in Frankfurt that we see the German city with the most immigrants also has the most crime. And as the article from SHTF Plan points out, the authorities have been very careful to try to cover up the origins of any crime. So, for instance, as they point out, Swedish police no longer are allowed to describe the ethnic backgrounds of criminals they catch. Most notably, the German government and the press were desperate to cover up hundreds of sexual assaults that occurred in Cologne 2015, remember, around New Year's Eve? However, there's certain stats that they can't cover up. They point out that the government can't conceal the connection between crimes and specific ethnic groups. So while they can do that, they can't cover up the crimes by location. So if we look at the fact that the place that is now more than half of Frankfurt is immigrants. And we see that they have an incident of crime that is far higher than it is in any of the other cities. The 2013 national crime figures that were leaked to a German newspaper earlier this week show that the number of crimes per 100,000 inhabitants, Frankfurt ranked as the most dangerous city in Germany with a little over 16,000 crimes per 100,000 people. And so we see the fruit of that. Meanwhile, as the Swedes try to cover up the rape epidemic that they have going on there from migrants, and people understand that. Some police have talked about that. They've been slapped down. We see a Swedish music festival on Tuesday canceled the festival because they said there's been too many rapes and sexual assaults. So that was on Tuesday. They said a Swedish festival, the largest one in Sweden, the biggest musical festival there, has been canceled for 2018 following reports of 4 rapes and 23 sexual assaults that took place on the site. However, today they came up with a solution. Don't pay attention to who it is that's doing this or try to control it. Instead, what they're going to do is they're going to ban men. Because, see, it's not politically correct to talk about immigrants committing crimes. It's not politically correct to talk about Muslims doing it. But you can blame men. Men can always be blamed. And it's never a problem to blame all men for the crimes of a few. No, that's perfectly fine. You can't blame any other group for the crimes, the entire group for the crimes of a few people, but they can do it with men. Sweden's biggest musical festival now will be replaced with a women's-only alternative event after reports of these rapes and sexual assaults. They say in 2016 there were 5 rapes and 12 sexual assaults alone. But, of course, now they're going to do it without men. And as they pointed out, what do you think about putting together a really cool festival where only non-men are welcome that will run until all men have learned how to behave themselves? See, that's the problem. All of you men are rapists, according to them. All of you, categorically. Sweden's first man-free rock festival will see the light next summer. Meanwhile, let's go back to Macron, the man who wants to govern like a Roman god, who goes to the Palace of Versailles and summons the French legislature and tells them, you will not stop any of the reforms that I'm going to impose on you. Now he is telling France that they are going to no longer be allowed to buy diesel or gasoline vehicles by the year 2040. Now, that's kind of a ways off. It's certainly going to be longer than he's going to be in office, I can guarantee you that. But you have to understand that this is directed at Donald Trump. He is the one that Macron is directing this at. He says they claimed that they're going to end the sale of gasoline vehicles by 2040, and then they will become carbon neutral by 10 years later. The Energy Secretary there, Hulot, the ecology minister, rather, said he had an array of measures, and he had 6 different themes and 23 policy proposals. This is the way the little bureaucrats work. I'm sure he had a PowerPoint presentation for those people who had been summoned to watch the new Roman god hold court in Versailles. Most of these were very short on specific details. You can bet they were. And exactly how these objectives would be achieved. They said one of the symbolic acts of the plan is that France, which previously had made the promise to divide its greenhouse gas emissions by a quarter by 2050, has now decided to become carbon neutral by 2050, following the U.S. decision to get out of the Paris Climate Agreement. See, this is aimed directly at Donald Trump. And they point out, this is kind of interesting, because only 1% of the French people buy electric cars. The rest of the people don't. So what Macron is saying is, we don't really care what 99% of you want. We are going to mandate what you're going to buy. We're not going to make it clean. We don't care. We're going to just ban it categorically. And then you ask, well, where are they going to get the electricity to run their little remote-controlled battery cars? Because France is going to end coal-generated electricity production by 2022. So they're not going to have any coal to generate the electricity. They're going to cut the share of nuclear power generation in French electricity make up by 50% by 2025. So they're going to cut coal. They're going to cut nuclear. So where are they going to get this stuff? Maybe they can run it off of the hot air of politicians. This is absolutely insane, folks. And when we look at this, we had a story that came out about a month or so ago. We had an MIT scientist, Dr. Richard Lindzen, that was interviewed by Climate Depot. And one of the things he said was that these so-called climate scientists believe that UN pacts can save the planet. But he said this: these efforts are returning us to the Middle Ages. Exactly. Except that in the Dark Ages, you could burn things like wood, coal, even excrement to get fuel, right? Now we have plenty of those, especially a lot of BS coming out of the French. You know, there's no shortage of wood, coal, or oil, and yet they're going to tell us that we can't do that. When you take away people's cheap supply of energy, you not only destroy the quality of life, but you also shorten life expectancy. And we have an interesting story that came up today in terms of climate data. And I want to take you back real quickly in the time we've got to a report that I did for another organization about 2012, talking about ClimateGate 1 and 2. To put this in perspective, we'll talk about ClimateGate 3 that's just coming out. Let's run that clip.
Emails leaked in ClimateGate 1 and 2 show a contempt for peer review and a realization that their data doesn't support their conclusions without being fudged.
So, that seems perfectly okay.
But there's an American side to this story as well, one involving Michael Mann, who gave us the famous hockey stick.
Policies not just at the national, state, and local, but international level are being promoted in the name of catastrophic man-made global warming, and the hockey stick had served as, quote, the smoking gun.
Now, if you'll bear with me, I want to really emphasize this point.
As in the UK, American climate scientists are fighting to hide research data paid for by taxpayers and being used as a basis for public policy. Powerful men seeking to elevate themselves by global transference of wealth through carbon credits and other schemes is no laughing matter, but threatens to destroy untold wealth, jobs, and opportunity.
I'd just like to have some of those gold bars.
Now, we did that because we were trying to get the emails out of the University of Virginia, emails that involved Michael Mann. But, of course, we'd also had ClimateGate 1 and 2 out of the University of East Anglia. And these were scientists, I use the term in air quotes, that were emailing each other saying, we've got to find a way to hide the decline. The temperature measurements do not match our models and so forth. They refused to give up those emails. Eventually, they showed up, as you saw at the very beginning of that video. Pull up that clip there. It was 1,000 emails in 2009. That was the beginning of ClimateGate. Then we had another release of 5,000 emails in 2011. Interestingly enough, even though these universities were able to prevail in the courts, we got the emails off of a Russian server. They've been shutting down these globalist plans for quite some time. Today, the Daily Caller points out that a new study finds that temperature adjustments account for nearly all of the warming data. So I guess we could call this ClimateGate 3. And what they found is that data from NASA, NOAA, and the UK is going back and revising historical data. Going back to earlier decades, they lower the temperature, and then all of the adjustments to recent times are to raise the temperature so they can create a trend. Now, this is very important because groups are going to try to use this to come against the endangerment clause, which is very, very important that that be taken out. Now, stay with us. We'll be right back with more news.
Electrify your day with Secret 12. It's like lightning in a bottle. We all have days in which we just can't seem to perform at the level we'd like to. Infowars Life Secret 12 is designed to naturally energize your body and mind with 2 great tasting and super high quality forms of vitamin B12. Proper vitamin and nutrient intake is essential to keep your body functioning at optimum levels. The reality is, it's hard to take in the proper amount of vitamins we need each day with our modern diets. Secret 12 by Infowars Life is an easy way to naturally upgrade your vitamin B12 intake and support your body's natural systems. It pairs 2 forms of vitamin B12 into one explosive formula. Vitamin B12 supports healthy energy levels through red blood cell formation and aiding in the body's natural processes, but it also assists with many other functions of the body. Electrify your mind and body and take your health to the next level. Experience the power of Secret 12 at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.
Vitamin Mineral Fusion. Visit InfoWarsLife.com to secure your canister. We have worked for years with our chemists and scientists to create the most powerful and affordable, great-tasting multivitamin formula available. Vitamin Mineral Fusion Drink Mix at InfoWarsLife.com is loaded with a full month's supply of essential vitamins, minerals, and amino acids that your body absolutely needs. In the history of InfoWars Life, we've brought out a lot of amazing products like Survival Shield X2, Super Male Vitality, and so many others. products. With its unique delivery system and proprietary manufacturing process designed for maximized effects, this formula is the platinum standard of multivitamin mineral products. And this part is most important. The ingredients in Vitamin Mineral Fusion are either plant-derived or of the highest quality lab standard. That means it's clean. That means it's pure. And rest assured, you're fighting the tip of the spear in the info war. That's InfoWarsLife.com and Vitamin Mineral Fusion. Take action now before we sell out. We have the new product at InfoWarsLife.com, BioTrue Selenium.
We've had so many requests over the years for selenium, and just recently, we were able to source a certified organic, bioavailable selenium from mustard seed extract. When you take selenium in the body, it actually benefits the detoxification systems in your body. It helps balance the thyroid gland. It helps detoxify.
Selenium is another one of those absolute must-haves.
The highest concentration of selenium is in the thyroid gland, but it's actually used all over the body. As a matter of fact, there's 25 genes in the body that are directly dependent upon selenium. So it really is a all-around nutrient that everybody really needs.
I'm taking it now every day. This is so key. BioTrue Selenium is the product, the best selenium that we could bring you. We believe it's the best out there at a very, very low price. Exclusively available at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. We're selling a product, DNA Force, that is the very best nutraceutical that we can produce. Dr. Group, you took years for you to develop DNA Force for us.
It's been something that I've been working on for a long time, Alex, because I think it's very, very important. What the aging process is when the cell replicates, we lose a little bit of our telomeres. Telomeres are the little cups on the end of our chromosomes.
And when it runs out, you start dying.
We chose the PQQ because it has over 175 different clinical trials. It's one of the most effective substances in the world. It works like an antioxidant. It works to repair nerve growth factor.
So this is a formula to deliver the maximum amount. It's in powder form.
We have so many 5-star reviews. I take this. This is the product that I take.
InfoWarsLife.com, and the profit we make, we fight the globals. We fight the New World Order. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
It goes back pretty much to our sources of information. Well, what are they? Well, our media, of course. The mainstream media is our primary source of day-to-day information, not only just from the media, but the people that the media allow us to listen to. They allow us to listen to certain politicians, for example, that have a certain point of view. We get to hear them all the time. But when another politician comes along with a contrary point of view, why then we don't even hear from them. Or if we do, they're always presented in a very negative light. So it's always the media. Of course, the schools play their part. You know, I came through the government schools, and I came out at the other end a long time ago already. I had preconceived ideas, which I found out later were not true at all. I was taught things that were really contrary to reality. And so there you have it between the schools and the media. And even, you know, the tax-exempt foundations that, and the advertising and the movies and all that sort of thing. So we get this information bombarding us, and we get the feeling that what we're seeing is real, when in fact it is not. I think the opposition to Mr. Trump would have done a lot better if they'd been more conservative in their opposition to him, but they're so radical and so violent, and the epitaphs they shout at him are so obviously false that I think it's really hurting their cause rather than helping.
We came from Texas, and we were down here for Red Pill, actually. And I mean, I've learned a lot of new things. Like, we watch CNN, fourth period, every day in English. And now to learn that it's all like a huge lie is like really crazy. I mean, everything about.
So your school actually has you guys watch CNN in class?
Every day, fourth period. It's like a 15-minute segment.
6th grade.
We did it 6th grade.
It was crazy. We watched it every day. And I don't yeah.
What is it, your school or your teacher deciding to do this?
They just thought that it would, like, I don't know, they were like, okay, we're going to watch 10 minutes of CNN every day, and it's going to give you a lot of information, and we had to, like, write down, like, what we learned, and then we had to, like, write papers on it, and it was,
essays
yeah.
at the end of the week, every week. So we did 10 minutes every day listening, and we had to write down 3 things about what we were learning. And then at the end of the week, we had to write like a 2-page essay on what we learned, or one thing about it. So it was like courage or like bravery about like ISIS and North Korea and Trump and Hillary, and a lot of the things that you showed on Infowars was like crazy.
So here's my question. Is it always CNN, or do they ever switch it up with like maybe Fox or?
We're watching student CNN, but I think that's really all we haven't watched anything else, have we? I think that's it. And it's been since the beginning of the year. We come in and we open up our journals and we write down 5 segments of 10 minutes.
Does that concern you at all that they aren't allowing other news programs to be shown, just only one?
Yeah, kind of like, now that I know it's a lie, I'm like, because we're going to watch it next year too.
We watch it 7 through 12, like until we graduate. And we won't watch student once we get into like 10th, but 10th through 12th we'll always watch CNN, and it won't be student anymore. So it's crazy to think that I'm only seeing one point of view on it and not seeing the other news's point of view now that I've like really like listened about it.
I had no idea. Like, now that I know CNN's a lie, I don't really know how I'm going to react in school. I might, like, I'm not going to tell my teachers. I feel like that would just be awkward, but yeah, it's crazy.
Do you think you'll share that with any of your classmates?
Probably, yeah. I'm going to tell them about the whole experience.
The Montana Human Rights Network started spreading rumors about us, calling us alt-right, whatever that means, but we are now alt-right.
Are they also making other claims besides just alt-right?
Oh yeah, they've tried to tie us to the KKK and Nazis, and actually that's from other conferences, but this one specifically, you know, swastikas and all of that stuff. You know, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. So, you know, I just think they have nothing better to do. I'm sad for them. They're sorry.
So you are from Montana.
Yes.
And you are 19 years old.
I am.
And I was on the phone talking about the Red Pill Expo that we just had. It was an awesome conference. And we mentioned Alex Jones, and your ears perked up. Why?
Yes, because Alex Jones presents his information very well and informative, and his facts are straight, and he is fun to listen to. I listen to his podcast all the time. I have his app on my phone. So I think he's growing, and everybody that is under him is just amazing, and I enjoy listening to him.
Isn't Millie like awesome?
Millie is awesome. Everybody on the show is awesome. Alex is my favorite, of course, but
as a young 19-year-old, you know, you're setting off in your career, and what do you see for your future?
I see oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
Are you concerned about your future?
Yes and no. You know, with this movement that's coming through, kind of this red pill movement that we're talking about, I think a lot of younger people like myself are coming through, and I think it's going to be amazing, the stuff that we're going to pull off and the things, you know, with Trump being in office and everything. I think it's going to help everybody's future in a way that a lot of young people don't understand. So I think the red pill movement is going to be a success, and that's what I'm hoping for, and I'm excited.
Just creeping right around the corner, we have all these kids being politically indoctrinated.
Yes, and that's why we need to really focus on this and really elevate it to the Trump level of the administration, because this is an issue of national security. Teaching our children to be for a communist form of government is a national security issue. We can do it. We need to help the teachers, the administrators, and get our schools back to safe havens of learning once again.
I grew up in a communist country where my grandfather could do whatever he wanted on his land. Right. There was no permitting. No one came to check on what he did. He had full autonomy to build his villa, to build his, you know, infrastructure, to build his grapes and fruit and produce, and no one bothered us or any of our neighbors in a communist country. So if we can't do that in America, I don't know what we label it as, but it's not the land of the free anymore.
So what country were you from?
Eastern Europe, Bulgaria. I grew up there until I was 12.
there are so many people that are have been awoke or awakened, however you want to say it, to mainly for me, public education and the corruption that's there. Our country is not going to change so long as the generation that is behind us comes up and they're completely brainwashed. And so the fact that other people have been made aware to that, it's blowing my mind. I just feel, because you feel like you're stuck in a box and you're the only one that knows these things.
What do you guys think about some of the local media claiming that this is an alt-right white supremacist recruitment convention?
They're idiots.
That's bull. They haven't even mentioned race, and I'm a Latino student at Gonzaga University, and no one has ever discriminated me on race. My mom is from Peru. She's never been discriminated based on race. She's actually had only benefits based on race. I've had affirmative action, more benefits given to me than pretty much anyone I know, just because of the fact that I have my mom's citizenship from Peru. So I would say that that's total bullshit. They're just lying about it just to kind of mischaracterize everyone here.
They're probably just jealous they're not here.
So Leah and I have a channel. We call ourselves Resistance Chicks because Alex Jones is always saying that you guys are the resistance.
So we call ourselves the Resistance Chicks.
The Antifa has seemed to steal that, but it's not theirs. It's Alex's. He coined it, and we're just kind of coming along with it. So thank you, Alex. Thank you, Millie. Thank you, everybody at Infowars for doing what you're doing. If it wasn't for Infowars,
I mean, half the stuff that we know, we wouldn't know.
No.
Like, everybody gets their information from Infowars, whether they want to believe
admit
it or not.
And you know what? They're waking up and they have to admit it. Guess what? Alex said all of this stuff first. You heard it here.
Alex said it first. I always say, Alex comes out with something, and then 2 weeks later, it's on the mainstream media. It's in the news. But it's always first, like, Alex will say something, I'll be like, I gotta Google that. It's not Googleable. And so I'm like, is that true? 2 weeks later, it's true. Like, hands down, every time.
We've got a lot of our viewers that are converted Alex fans now because they come into it skeptical and we're like, dude, the dude speaks the truth.
Anything that carries a history is dangerous. You want to erode the grip of the past. Anything beyond your control is a threat. Anything you might have disclosed yourself with. Anything that could challenge the present. Anything that might actually say something different.
Alex Jones here with a very important news update to anybody out there that wants to be prepared. But it goes beyond being prepared. Our bodies absolutely must have the good halogen iodine or we will die. And you look at all of the thyroid problems and all the people that don't have energy and that have all sorts of hormone problems. And from my research, and a lot of just mainline research, it leads back to iodine over and over and over again. It's as important as vitamin C. If you don't get iodine, you die. But most people are just deficient, so they're low energy, they're sick. You got to have iodine in your body so that your body can produce the hormones you need. It is the base to so many things. And since I got into iodine 4 years ago, we've helped change the entire paradigm by developing and bringing to the public deep earth crystals from 7,000 to 12,000 feet of the purest iodine available. Other iodine comes from the ocean or from other byproducts of chemical facilities, and it's tainted. It's bound. It's not absorbable. I tried it. And I had incredible effects even with dirty iodine because the body needs it. When you don't have iodine, it absorbs the chlorine, the fluoride, and all these other bad halogens. Do yourself and your family a favor and check out the importance of iodine for yourself. I think you're going to be blown away. And whatever you do, support the broadcast and get a bottle of Survival Shield Nascent Iodine X2. Also consult your physician because if you've been deficient in it or have other issues, it can have some dramatic effects. As for me and most folks I talk to, it's been a game changer in the positive column, but still consult your physician because iodine is no joke. It's a key building block of the body. And if you haven't had it for a long time and suddenly have it, some folks say they've experienced things like a detoxing effect and things like that. You've got to have vitamin C. You've got to have iodine to live. You've got to have water to live. Iodine is key. You must have it, but consult your physician first before you get powerful Survival Shield Nascent Iodine X2 at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free. We can answer your questions, 888-253-3139.
My guest is Chris Gaubitz, and he is the National Security Consultant and Vice President for UnderstandingTheThreat.com. And Chris's story is actually a very unique story. Chris takes us inside CARE, inside of what is described in his bio as Hamas, an insider account of what he thinks is a threat to this nation, what is an Islamic invasion. Chris, it's a rare story that you live to tell today, and you have infiltrated CARE, which is becoming more prevalent in our society today as an organization that is planning marches, having public input. From your experience, why did you want to go into CARE, and then what led you to have a book written about you? Your father wrote the book, Muslim Mafia. Tell us about your story.
Sure. So the purpose of the entire Muslim Mafia project was to show what CARE is like behind closed doors. You know, CARE bills itself as a Muslim civil rights organization, when in all actuality, per evidence in the largest terrorism financing and Hamas trial in American history, the U.S. versus Holy Land Foundation, CARE was identified as a Hamas organization. So what the project of Muslim Mafia, where I posed as a Muslim convert, I'm a Christian, but I posed as a Muslim convert, traveled around mosques all over the country, worked with the national offices in CARE, and we showed what the Holy Land Foundation trial showed, which is that CARE is not a Muslim civil rights organization. It is Hamas doing business as CARE. And these are the same people that are working on Capitol Hill. Their offices are blocks from the U.S. Capitol to influence legislators, to influence policy. All of this is to help advance the agenda of Hamas here in America.
It's amazing to me that this is a story that nobody is really talking about, because you're talking about CARE, which is something that most people probably hadn't heard of 10 years ago, but now it is very centric in our culture because of what people are saying is anti or Islamophobic behavior. So they bring CARE to America. They say, look, we can all get along. We're just here to get along. They put Linda Sarsour out there as kind of the face and the voice of CARE. But as it's been tied to Hamas, I mean, is it fair to say that these are nothing more than Hamas agents operating in the United States?
It would not only be fair to say that, Owen, this is factually per evidence in terrorism trials. This is a factual statement. To say that CARE is Hamas is factual. We've got a document on our website, 30 statements of fact showing that CARE is a Hamas organization. Look, this is a war of narratives, which is why that they use the Islamophobia campaign. The whole purpose of this war of narratives is to shut down any discussion of Islam, Sharia, or jihad as being part of the problem. And the problem we're seeing across the globe, whether it's in the UK, Belgium, France, Germany, or here in the United States, the problem is Islam. This has been a problem that has been raging for 1,400 years. There's nothing new about this. And 100% of authoritative Islamic law mandates jihad until the entire planet is subjugated under Sharia. And 100% of authoritative Islamic law defines jihad as warfare against non-Muslims. Now, from their perspective, from the Islamic movement's perspective, jihad is total warfare. Political influence operations, propaganda, intelligence gathering, espionage, treason, all of this is jihad, and including shooting things and blowing things up. So there's the kinetic aspect of this. But primarily, if they can keep people from talking about Islam and Sharia as being the problem, then necessarily we can't defeat a problem we're not going to identify. And that's one of the main lines of operation that CARE or Hamas works here in the United States, is to control the narrative.
And just to provide a little background as to why I think this is such an issue that's coming of age, you look at the proxy wars that the United States and countries in Europe have been involved in the Middle East, obviously destabilizing nations over there. The people over there, some of them aren't going to be happy about it. Okay, so now we have a situation domestically where we have an open border, people flooding here. And then you have another situation where you say, not only do we want this open border, we want to invite all these people. We want to put CARE in the spotlight, and we want to put Linda Sarsour as the mouthpiece saying, these are peaceful people, Sharia law is good. Now I want to bring it back to Linda Sarsour. What do you think her role in this really is?
Well, there's a term for this in national security. It's called the red-green axis, where you have the hard left Marxist socialist groups working hand in hand with jihadi groups. Linda Sarsour is the poster child for this red-green axis. She is getting leftist groups to basically push the narrative that Islam is peaceful, Islam has nothing to do with the problem, and yet from a national security standpoint, Islam has everything to do with the problem. Sharia is the blueprint by which all of these jihadi groups operate, whether it's Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, the Muslim Brotherhood, Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, fill in the blank. They all say that they're Muslims waging jihad to establish an Islamic State under Sharia, and yet it is people like Linda Sarsour working with the media and groups like CARE, which is Hamas, working with the media to say that this problem has nothing to do with Islam, and it's just factually false.
This is such a big story. Again, we're visiting with Chris Galbitz. He is working with understandingthethreat.com. The book is Muslim Mafia, that tells his story of infiltrating CARE and getting the insider details. Now, basically, to put it bluntly, what you have here is a group of people, and I'll hear your response to this, is Islamic people, Muslim people who want to come here and turn America into an Islamic nation, and they're using false narratives to come in under the gun, under the weather, and nobody even knows it's going on.
Yeah, and it's even more sinister than that. Look, the Muslims that are already here and have been here for decades, the Muslim Brotherhood movement, per their own documents, say that they're going to wage civilization jihad to destroy our civilization from within. Now, you mentioned U.S. foreign policy working overseas. Our Islamic advisors, many of whom are Muslim brothers, are the ones that advised us to support the Arab Spring or the Islamic uprising, which was the purpose of which was to overthrow the dictators in the Middle East and install Muslim Brotherhood governments. And the Muslim Brotherhood, as I've testified in front of the U.S. Senate, is no different than Al-Qaeda or the Islamic State. They have the same goals. So the Islamic advisors actually worked with us here in the U.S. to support the overthrow of Gaddafi, of Hussein, of Bashar al-Assad, of Mubarak in Egypt. And if you read jihadi writings from the late 80s and 90s, that was the strategic objective of jihadi groups, was to overthrow these tyrants so that they could establish Islamic states under Sharia. We helped them achieve those goals, the United States government.
What were some of the things you experienced when you infiltrated CARE that you either didn't expect or may have expected or shocked you?
I wasn't prepared to see just how entrenched Hamas was here in our U.S. Capitol. The fact that they had weekly meetings with legislators, the fact that per their own documents, they said that they wanted to, their own meetings, that they wanted to work with Osama bin Laden more. The reach that they have in Homeland Security, Judiciary, and Intelligence Committees on Capitol Hill. These are what we call suit-wearing jihadis. They smile, they wear suits, they show up to these meetings on Capitol Hill, they build relationships, and they are influencing policy by building these relationships. And I just wasn't prepared for just how sinister this was.
Now, I want to close it out with this because we've been having a conversation here. We've been pretty calm, but we're talking about a serious threat to this country. I want you to close it out. I mean, what is the true nature of this threat? What are Americans really facing? What do the people need to hear and know about CARE that is becoming a household name?
Look, we need a sense of urgency here in America right now. We are at war. Now, the Muslim Brotherhood, which CARE is an inherent part of the Muslim Brotherhood because Hamas is the Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, they state that they want to overthrow every single nation and install an Islamic State. Now, whether or not the people listening right now agree that they can do this or not, I would argue that they are working unimpeded and have for decades. So we need a sense of urgency to A, acknowledge that we're at war, to B, understand this threat, and then we also need to understand ourselves as a nation. Who are we? What are we fighting for? If we don't start right now as a nation having these conversations, we are not going to win this war.
Thank you for your time, Chris.
Oh, thank you for having me on, Owen.
That's Chris Galbitz. The book is Muslim Mafia. The website is understandingthethreat.com.
I am very proud to announce the introduction of the highest quality Infowars Biome Defense Probiotic. We wanted to come out with the largest spectrum of high quality known probiotics that have been proven to improve overall digestion and health and detoxification in the body. Biome Defense is an exclusive blend of 50 billion live and active cultures from over 23 different probiotic strains that are known to support digestion and intestinal function. Our researchers are confident that we have been able to develop what will be the leading probiotic on the market. Secure your Biome Defense in ultra strength or regular strength at InfoWarsLife.com today and get started supporting your digestive system naturally. We've been testing this formula for years, but this is the limited first run to the public, so please take advantage of it today. Support your own health and support the InfoWar.
Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It's Thursday, July 6, 2017. Here are our top stories.
Tonight, the lie perpetuated by the mainstream media that 17 intelligence agencies agreed Russia had hacked our infrastructure is called into question as the original fake news reporters have had to retract their stories. Also, protesters at the G20 summit get out of control as riot police are called to the scene, while thousands march in the streets.